Hattie, are you showing your desktop right now?
No, but I can.
Yeah, that's good. I'll wait a couple more minutes. I have like 32 now. So wait a little bit longer.
Wolf, are you also having your headset in as well as the call?
I just, not at the moment. I just went through this.
It's picked up a microphone as well as your telephone call?
No, not anymore.
Okay, I'm just going to mute you from the telephone call then, because we've already got you picked up from the microphone from your laptop or your machine.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise we'll get feedback.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It's slightly muted.
Want me to, trying to find the controls here. Do you want me to turn it out of the microphone? Or?
I think what I can do is I've unmuted you again on the telephone call, but I think we're just going to hear an echo.
Some way to avoid that?
Yeah, I think that's quite a bad connection. So I'll mute the telephone conversation, and if you just speak a little clearly in your machine.
Okay. One sec. Is this better?
Well, I can understand you, but I don't know if anybody else could.
It sounds good to me.
Oh, okay, fine.
Good. All right. Well, I guess we should start. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time here. Just let me know if there's any problems with sound or anything else, and we'll try to fix that. But I'm Wolf Kirsten. I'm with International Health Consulting in Berlin, Germany, and I'm your moderator today. So welcome to the Global Consortium webinar. It's our, I think, seventh now in a series of conferences. And we have two exciting presentations planned for today. We have Patty Collier from Intel and Barry Hall from Buck Consultants, as you could see in the invite. The webinar format obviously was pretty well received last time, so we tend to continue presenting leading case studies here and also sharing experiences via webinars. I think most of you know now the Global Consortium for Employee Health, and it's really intended as a global thought leadership forum, and we hope to continue that as we move forward, looking at how to improve health and enhance performance of employees worldwide. And I think we had some pretty good discussions in the past with some interesting presentations from Asia Pacific, Europe, and North America. And today we'd like to take a closer look at global, really interesting global approach, global wellness program, and also take a close look at how the economic crisis is affecting wellness programming worldwide. Because I know it's all on our minds, it's affecting us, and you have news, bad news coming at us on a daily basis nearly. But I think it's also a somewhat promising time for health promotion and wellness. I think just one example is the introduction of the Healthy Workforce Act in the U.S. Congress, and who knows what's going to happen once it goes through there or comes through legislation. But it seems to have a lot of support, and then also President Obama has been pretty favorable. So we'll see what happens. And I think what was really interesting was that Health Promotion Advocates, those of you in the U.S. may know them, it's a nonprofit organization basically created to integrate health promotion concepts into national health policy. And they think that with the new investments basically stimulated by this bill, if it goes through, they expect 41,000 new jobs in health promotion to be created. So that's really interesting, I thought. If that's happening, we'll see, but I think that projection is pretty promising for our field. So I think that's really, really good. And also other countries, like in the UK or China, there's a number of initiatives going on right now, government-led initiatives, which again are promising, and we have to see how they unfold. But this could lead and is intended to lead to greater or better growth in the health promotion and wellness field. So again, I think we're not in a bad situation given the economic crisis. So last time, Brad McDougall from Australia shared two examples of how return on investment and economic value of health and well-being programs was proven in Australia. So in today's webinar, I'd like to pick up the discussion of how the economic crisis is affecting wellness programs and how to address this challenge. So Patty will highlight Intel's global approach to health and well-being with an analysis on how the economic crisis has affected their ambitious global plans. And Barry Hall from our consultants will follow and sharing some insight whether wellness is really taking a hit at the moment. Both presentations will be followed by a Q&A and then a discussion period. And then hopefully some of you can share your experiences, and especially how the economic downturn is affecting you and how you're addressing this. So anytime we encourage you to share your experiences and actively participate. So if there are any questions at this moment with regard to the agenda or requests, if there are not, then I would like to move forward with Patty. Intel is, I think, a global leader, not just in semiconductor production, but I really think also in promoting a culture of optimal health and well-being, and has really made some major strides in the last few years in this process. So, Patty is Senior Project Manager of Global Health and Well-being at Intel, and has tirelessly been pushing the global agenda. So, Patty, I'll hand it over to you at this point.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure to thank Wolf and everyone for this opportunity, and I plan to be fairly brief. So if you do have additional comments or questions, please make sure you send them to me on email. And my email address is patty.clavier@intel.com. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Intel and then go into the three-step wellness check details. And I want to touch on the brand and then move quickly into engagement. And we measure this through participation, satisfaction, risk transition. And I'll say something about the program status, which of course is dependent on the current environment. Intel is the world's largest semiconductor manufacturer with over 80,000 employees worldwide. And there is an interest from senior management to support the culture of health by keeping the healthy people healthy and supporting those with risk to improve and strive to keep them from getting worse. The work done at Intel has employees at the base, and I hope you can see that on your WebEx. Without employees, we can't offer silicon technology, Intel platform architecture, and market creation. The vision for the program is centered around people, with Intel encouraging personal and business excellence through a culture of optimal health and well-being for our most valuable asset, our people. In 2006, the brand Health for Life was created, and under this umbrella are programs, benefits, and then centers. In the discussion today, we're going to focus on the three-step wellness check. In 5 major locations, the U.S. with over 45,000 employees, Costa Rica, Malaysia, Israel, and now China, nearly 62,000 of the 84,000 employees have access to this program. In step 1, the employee has a health check, and that does include a blood draw as well as blood pressure and BMI. Depending on the location, would be body fat percentage or waist and hip measurement. They take information that they learn in the health check and they complete the health risk assessment in step 2. And then in step 3 is the wellness coaching. And depending on which location is depends on the incentive offered. The participation globally, when we measured it at the end of Q1, was 36%, and our goal is 50%. And I'll speak to that in a little more detail. All of our locations except the U.S. are over 50% participation. We have a big effort going into the U.S. increasing their participation. The program satisfaction is at 94%. We do ask a 9-question survey. And we have nearly 30% of the participants providing us with program feedback, so we feel really good about the satisfaction. The really great news is that from the first year to the second year, we do have a cohort of 5,455, where 21% of those showed a movement out of high and very high risk, and this trend is continuing into the third year as well. We keep a data dashboard with the information around participation, satisfaction, risk transition, and as you note here, the areas that need improvement really are around the U.S. participation. The new participants is the area we really want to focus on. We do seem to have more success with people coming back and returning to the program. Please note that the U.S. is in its third year. And since this data is of the end of March, end of Q1, Malaysia has since moved into its second year, and Israel is still in its first year, and Costa Rica is moving into its second year. And we also have a location in China launching this week. So another important note is that the on-site coaching participation in all locations is very popular and above goal. And when we look a little bit deeper at the satisfaction, I wanted to include this because Intel loves seeing how satisfied are people. And when we can tell them that 30% of the people are actually completing the survey, they're delighted. And then we, as I said, ask 9 questions, and the 2 most important are, did this program motivate you to improve your health? And the second one is, would you recommend this program to a coworker? And both responses are very high from all locations. And we look at this every month. That's why it looks slightly different from the Q1 data. Please note that the survey response is at 29% and the satisfaction is at 92%. We are getting a lot of attention from senior managers when we take data like this to present and discuss in our meetings. They love to see what's the possible cost opportunity here. So all of us know the importance of keeping people at their current risk level and not letting them get any worse. That's actually our goal. But here we can report that people are moving out of high and very high risk factor groupings into the low and moderate risk factor groupings. And we know that with aggregate costs, we can do some analysis and see what our low-cost folks are in terms of claims, what medium risk folks are, and high and very high. And then we also look at non-participants. And we apply that to that 21% moving out of high and very high risk. And that's where we come up with our medical cost savings associated with positive risk transition. And I didn't put the dollar amount because that's considered confidential. We also do the same thing with the presenteeism analysis within the health risk assessment. We have an ability to look and apply what those cost savings could be. And where we do this in the U.S., we do share that outside the U.S., and it does impact the commitment from senior level management. They know that healthier people are going to be more productive people. Another item that I'd like to address is that we confirm what we are seeing in the health risk assessment, which, of course, is self-reported. We look at the actual aggregate data, and that's that chart on the right, where we confirm that self-reported improvements are actually happening in the actual data, the data around weight, hypertension, lipid panel, and glucose. So the good news is that we can confirm the improvements in weight and hypertension and dyslipidemia. The area that you probably note that we aren't seeing improvement is glucose, but I wanted to share that we're seeing the same thing in our Malaysia data set, and researchers like Ron Getzel are seeing it in their employer data as well. So are there plans to keep the programs going, especially in this time of economic concern? And the answer is yes. All our indicators are on track, and there is great attention to that lower U.S. participation and lots of work going on to increase it, lots of interest from senior management to encourage it. Satisfaction in the program is high. The risk transition is occurring. And our epidemiologists, along with other key stakeholders like finance, are working on the ROI plan for the next 5 years. The funding happened this year for China and for a new group in Israel. In Russia, they funded a health risk assessment. One Asia location is putting funding in place, but it's on hold for one more management review, so they're a little bit more critical of the program in these times of economic concern. And they have voiced significant interest in the program. And in another sustaining site, the incentives were cut due to the budget, but it hasn't impacted the program. People still want to come in and participate. And we believe that management does see opportunities with employees at their optimal health, and that healthy employees create a competitive edge. So finally, just to wrap it up on one slide that tells the story I was attempting to share in the last few minutes, participation is the challenge, particularly in the U.S., and we are inching our way in the right direction. And certainly people love the program, and that's evidenced by the satisfaction, and it's very solid. And then the participants are moving out of high risk. And we'll continue to show the story to C-suite to maintain support. Back to you, Wolf.
Thanks, Patty. Very good. Well, let me hand it over to the forum. Does anybody have some immediate questions for Patty that we can address now?
Please use the raise your hand icon. There doesn't seem to be any questions so far.
Yeah, I can't see any
Oh,
questions.
yes, I can see. Anne Sky has a question.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Anne. Barry, can she...
Yep.
thank you. That was really informative and impressive and encouraging to the rest of us who are trying to get where you are. I'm representing Quintiles. We also have many offices in global areas and are quite a bit behind you in terms of the screening aspects. We have some wellness programming, but not the structured screening. But I can tell you that we share your participation woes in the U.S. We're probably right at around that 35% participation with the goal of 50 as well. And I guess my question was just, could you speak a little bit to how you in your role have been able to get all this happening globally, all of the screening activities in the various different healthcare systems, et cetera?
And that's a great question, and I think I can help a little bit. One of the things that I thought was a pivotal piece was, first of all, we had a grassroots effort for, almost 10 years before we really got funded to do this in 2006. But the thing that we believe really impacted the conversation to move forward was when we showed Paul Otellini, our CEO, we did a pilot group with 400 people where we actually gave them their biometrics. And then when they took the HRA, we were able to pull their data out of the group and compare it to the people that didn't have their biometrics. And they were much higher at risk for blood pressure, blood sugar, and lipids. And when Paul Otellini saw that, he said, well, by all means, we need to give people the full picture of what's happening. And that's really what did turn that around.
Very interesting. So was the pilot of people from all over?
It was in the U.S., and we opened it up. We sent, I think we have like 6 or 7 major locations in the U.S. We sent out an email and said, we're going to offer this blood draw in addition to the health risk assessment. Please sign up. And in lots of locations, the sign-ups were filled within an hour.
Wow.
So people wanted it.
Great. Thank you.
Patty, I have a follow-up question here in terms of the global acceptance. That you showed the participation rate, and it's like a real global effort. Do you have to do more work or more convincing, so to say, with the specific sites, whether in Europe or Asia than others, or was the response to this, initially U.S. initiative really positive right away? How did that work?
So in Malaysia, Costa Rica, and Israel, we really have not had any trouble convincing either management or the people to come in and do the program. They're used to, in some of our locations, having their employers support programs like this because they have a different medical support system than we do in the U.S. So, for instance, in Malaysia, we've been doing blood draw blitzes, we call them. So every quarter we offer blood draws in a large open area, and there's lines of people. So people really like that. Getting them to take the health risk assessment is a little bit more challenging. And, again, we have to do a lot of communications to help them understand why. But it helps to have a third party encouraging them to do that because the coach really needs that information to do that coaching, and that face-to-face coaching has been another area that people have really liked, just being able to talk to someone about their risks. People really seem to embrace that.
Okay, thank you. I think we have another question. Is it Marsha?
That's correct, yep. Marsha, away you go.
Hi, this is Marsha Schumann with Cigna. Very interesting overview, thank you. And I guess I must say I'm a little bit surprised that the participation rates are lower in the U.S. And was just curious, I know a lot of organizations that we work with have gone to benefit plan design as a way of driving engagement, participation, HRA completion, or biometrics, or for that matter, program participation around health and productivity management. anything from, premium reductions for completion of a health assessment to FSA contributions, and in many cases, of course, we're seeing more what we would now call mandatory participation in that, no ticky, no washy. If you don't complete the HRA, then you don't receive benefits through the organization, which usually happens, of course, farther down the line with the introduction of a program. But I was just curious if you had looked at that particular approach or what you're thinking of that.
Yeah, Marcia, we sure have. And so the first year we offered a gift card for doing the health check and another gift card for doing the coaching. We did the same thing in year 2, and then in year 3, and this is specific to the U.S., we went ahead and did the a reward points program, so we added another $25 gift card. And that's a really fun one because what happens is the person who does the health risk assessments gets 250 of 500 points, and the other 250 points are earned by doing healthy activities. We know that our next step is going to be premium reduction in some fashion, and so we certainly are in those discussions. We believe that our participation is equal to what happens when you give $50 to $75 in the U.S. So we're definitely on there. And interesting enough, in some of our other locations, we do not incentivize at all, and we still get good participation. In some of our locations, it's considered a bribe to give an incentive. In some of our locations, it was just a fun incentive, and when it was taken away, people were like, okay, we don't care, we still want to do this. So we're definitely on our way to the no ticky, no washy.
And what's your perception of the difference there? I mean, culturally, as far as certain locations that readily participate and engage in versus the U.S.
I learn every day because I go to these meetings and I have key people in those locations that teach me about the difference between people in one location to another one. But as I said, in Israel we do not give incentives. It just would not be. It would not be in money, in terms of money. Now, I think they're thinking about giving them gift bags, like a gym bag. Costa Rica was giving T-shirts and ran out of funds and said it's either we give you blood draws or we give you a T-shirt. And they all said, we'll take blood draws. In Malaysia, I think they're giving incentives, but the thing was they wanted them to do all 3 steps because there, culturally, they were concerned that people wouldn't do the health risk assessment and they wouldn't do the coaching. They do the blood draw, but they wouldn't do the next 2 steps. So that's why they decided to incentivize if you got some bucks in your paycheck if you did all 3 steps. So it's, we tried to figure it out depending on the location. China, they're going to have a small incentive too, but it's just going to be a little bit different. And again, we let the sites make those decisions. We help them along, but basically they make those decisions.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks. Excellent. Any other questions? I don't see anybody. I think it was very informative, and as Patty graciously offered, you can follow up with email if you have more in-depth questions. I think it was really a good insight here for global approach and global program. But looking at the clock, I think we need to move along a little bit because we have our second speaker lined up, Barry Hall. Barry is a principal in clinical health consulting and global technology solutions practices of Buck Consultants. And Barry's a regular contributor to the Global Consortium, so you probably heard him before speaking in one of our sessions. And you may have received an invite to this year's global survey about health promotion workplace wellness values, and it's still open actually until June 30th, but I'm sure Barry will briefly touch upon that. But primarily, he will report on 2 recent Buck surveys with regard to the economic downturn and also with regard to wellness programs in that round. So, Barry, are you ready? Or Barry Stokes, would you want to hand it over to Barry Hall?
Yep. The progress has been passed over.
Okay. Can you hear me? Am I on?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. And can you see my slides yet on the screen?
No, you need to hit the
I need
icon on
to
Share Your Desktop.
Okay. So I'll just share my desktop here. And how's that?
That's right, we can view it now.
Great.
Let me see if is that better if I go to full screen for you guys?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So what I'd like to show you today are a couple things under the topic of what's happening to health promotion programs in the current economic environment. And I have a couple different surveys that can pull some indicators from, and I'm very interested in hearing some discussion from some of the other participants about what you're seeing, because I don't think anyone has the total answer here, but I think there's some interesting indicators. So the first piece of data I have is from a survey that Buck did at the World Congress, Employer Health and Human Capital Congress. This was in February, so this is a couple months old. And this was an interactive audience survey that we did. There were about 200, maybe 250 organizations represented in the audience, and we had one of those, interactive polling systems. So we had just a couple very simple questions, but it was a, very immediate type of response there. So what we learned from that, I'm going to skip this and just go to the specific 4 questions we had. The first one was, how is the economic downturn? What did they think it was going to impact? How did they think it was going to impact their wellness offerings? And at this point, again, this is February. Majority of the people said nothing's happened yet. We're nervous about the cuts. But of the remainder, it was pretty split. Some said we're going to increase our investment in wellness. Others said we're going to decrease, and the others said we don't think it's going to impact us. So I think the jury's kind of still out on that, at least at that point. The next question I think is more interesting, and this is if you do expect to see some cuts in your wellness program budget, how will they compare to other budget cuts in the organization? And in this case, about a third said they would be about the same, but of the remainder, more said we think that wellness will not be cut as greatly as other programs. And I think that, well, number one, that's encouraging, and that seems to be an indication of the value of wellness, the perceived value of wellness. And I think this is in pretty stark contrast to where we were in the 80s and 90s. You may remember, there was a lot of interest and a lot of buildup in wellness programs. And then we hit some tough economic times in the early 90s, and the wellness programs were often the first thing to go. And we don't seem to be seeing that today in this environment. And as we all know on this call, certainly a lot of things are different in terms of the way that we're all thinking about, and our senior management is thinking about wellness programs today. So I think there's a much greater appreciation that these aren't just a perk benefit and the first thing to go when times get tough, but that these are, driving business value, that there are a lot of reasons to do it, that they're a longer-term investment. So if we cut them out immediately, we're going to pay the price. But hopefully this is some indication of that employers are much more resistant today to cutting these programs. The next question was about communicating your wellness benefits. Is the economic situation impacting? Are you increasing or decreasing your communications? About half said no change, but of the remainder, the majority are increasing their communications. And I think this is interesting because I've talked to some employers who initially had some real hesitation about communicating wellness benefits in this environment. And their concern, as you might appreciate, is, gee, if employees know times are tough, do we really want to be out there communicating some benefits that some people might perceive as, why are we spending money on that when we're cutting jobs, basically? Why are we spending money on wellness? It does seem that the majority of the employers have gotten over that and appreciated that there is some value in communicating these programs in this environment. And at this point, this is my perspective on this, but it seems that there's real opportunity here to say, what are the things that are impacting you personally in the current economic environment? Well, you've probably got more stress. Anxiety, depression are up. Substance abuse, financial, stress over financial situation. Maybe you have a spouse that lost a job, or other, in your investments are in bad shape. So the employer can say, we understand you've got a lot of challenges, more challenges, and we have programs in place. In fact, we've had these programs in place for some time, but you may not have needed to take advantage of them in the past. But we want to just take this opportunity to remind you that these programs are here, whether it's an EAP or financial counseling or, stress reduction, yoga at work, whatever it might be. Take the opportunity to remind people that the programs are there for them. And I think that that's a slight, positive that can come out of these challenges in the communication side of things. And I will be interested to hear thoughts from others of you on this specific issue. The last question we asked was, has the actual use of the wellness services increased, decreased, or no change? And you can see here some perception, even back in February, that the usage of the services is increasing, which is what we would probably expect and is positive. The programs are there for people to use them. We also, in conjunction with this survey, we did a quick survey of our consultant base who are most involved with this. You can see we had 33 consultants responding on behalf of over about 300 clients that they represented. And in general, their impressions were similar. The consultants were maybe a little bit more pessimistic or perhaps realistic than some of the employers, but in general, the responses were in alignment that predicting that wellness was not going to be cut as great as we might have feared. Now, we did another survey more recently. This is one that we did in conjunction with the World at Work conference in Seattle just a few weeks ago. This was launched there, and it's primarily delegates from that. And it's still open. I have some results just as of the results I'll show you are just as of last Friday. This is much broader, so this is not focused specifically on health promotion. It's more on compensation and benefits and what employers are doing, today relative to that. But I did want to pull out one result here. This is 77 employers participating, and the question was, what are you doing with your comp and benefit programs more broadly to save costs given the current economic situation? And I recognize this text is kind of small. Hopefully you can read this okay on your screen. But basically, wage freezes are at the top and reducing training. You can see healthcare starts to come in with increasing premiums or copay. So the cost sharing or the cost shifting aspect is near the top of what employers are doing. About a quarter of them said they're doing that. And then healthcare really doesn't pop in again until almost at the bottom, reducing healthcare benefits. 5% of the survey respondents said they're taking some action there. From personal experience, again, the organizations I've been working with that are in that camp are primarily those who were in a position where they felt that they, even without the economic situation, felt that they had some rich plans that they wanted to adjust, and are kind of, finding this current economic situation maybe the straw that broke the camel's back to take some actions that they might have already in terms of benefit reduction. And again, for the folks on this call, we could say that doesn't really make a lot of sense to be cutting healthcare benefits. This is a time when people certainly need it. But that's some interesting results there. And there are more. This is a short survey, but there are more results. If you're interested in that, I'd be glad to send you a copy of that, of the full results from that survey. Another one that I thought was interesting was the National Business Group on Health did a survey, and this was as of May. And some of you on the call, I'm sure, are members, and maybe you've already seen this, or there was a webcast on it a couple weeks ago. this one is interesting because this is a survey of employees. The last two I showed you were employers responding. This is actually employees responding, and I think they had about 1,500 employees from a variety of different companies. All of the companies had at least 2,000 employees, so they were mid to larger employers. And these were their key takeaways. And again, there's a big, long report with lots of results here, but this is, I think, a good summary. Number one, the economic downturn is impacting employees' health. And there have been a lot of things in the news. This is probably not news to anyone. Employees, when questioned, a lot of them are saying, well, I'm deferring going to the doctor or deferring some, optional care. I'm not refilling my prescriptions as much, because of the cost. And so some issues around that. And as I said before, we know, stress and depression, anxiety are taking a hit because of the current environment. Also, I saw a piece just a couple weeks ago on obesity and how obesity was on the rise. And I know that, it doesn't sound like news to anyone. We know that obesity is on the rise. But according to this article, it said that actually the increase in obesity has been flat for about the last 3 or 4 years. And it just took a big spike in the last 12 months, a 2% increase, which is significant. And this is a U.S. statistic. I'm sorry. This is in the U.S. 2% increase is 5.5 million individuals who were not obese 12 months ago are now classified as obese. And this article tied it back to the economic situation and stress, as you can imagine, driving poor nutrition, exercise habits, etc. So I thought that was interesting. That was I was looking for that article this morning. I think it was in USA Today. I couldn't find it on their website, but I'm pretty sure I read it in, on the elevator in a hotel from USA Today a couple weeks ago. So that's number one. Number two, I think, is not surprising. Employees more sensitive to financial aspects of healthcare. But what I think is interesting here for this group is number three. Health improvement is more of a priority than it was a year ago. And again, this is employees saying this. This is not the employers. This is the employees saying greater importance on health, my personal health improvement, nutrition, exercise. There's a couple different measures in here. And more openness to employers, health promotion efforts, screening, coaching, incentives, greater openness to incentives. So I think this is encouraging for employers who are trying to do this. I also thought it was interesting from some of the discussion around Patty's results she just presented and the issues about the opportunity, and this ties back to what I was just talking about, cost savings, et cetera. A lot of employers have incentives in place for health promotion, and as they're looking for where to cut, there's an opportunity to look at incentives and say, are these incentives working? Are they doing what we want them to do? And are they necessary? And I'm not advocating getting rid of your incentives, but I thought it was really interesting. Patty was talking about in some cases, you take them away, and or maybe it was Marcia as well. Take them away, and you find out that wasn't really the incentive that was driving people to do this. And I think we do need to constantly re-examine what we're doing and how we're doing it, what type of incentives are the most effective, because we're learning more and more that the highest value incentives are not necessarily the most effective. A lot of principles, and it's kind of sort of way out of topic of this discussion, but behavioral economics and other things that really point to some interesting ways to be more effective at using it. So that's the National Business Group survey, and if you're interested in those, and there's more about, as you can see from number 4, about healthcare in general, not just health promotion, but there's a lot more where that came from. The last thing I wanted to mention is, as Wolf indicated, the current Global Wellness Survey is open right now through June 30th. I know that some of the folks on the call have already participated in it, and if you haven't yet, I would encourage you to do so. We have a couple new questions in the survey this year related to the economic downturn. So, and as you you know, we get a lot of participation and global participation in this survey. So we should, in a few months, have some more interesting metrics on what employers are doing with respect to some of the issues I was just talking about from a broader global perspective, as well as some other new questions we have on culture of health and other things. If you've seen the survey in the past or seen the results, you know there's a lot of interesting measures in there. So we're really looking forward to this year's results as well. And if you haven't already participated, I would encourage you to do so. There's no cost to participate, and you'll get a copy. You'll be the first to get a copy of the results as well, and be able to benchmark your programs against other organizations. So that's the comments I had for today, and we'd be glad to take some questions and discussion on any of these issues.
Again, please raise your hand.
Good note, leaving on a good note there with the global survey, because I really think it would be interesting to see, you know, how this is really affecting other countries or companies in other countries. Because, as usual, a lot of data comes out of the U.S., so it's the what comes out of it. So are there any questions for Barry at this moment on any of the survey findings?
If anyone has any questions, again, just use the raise your hand icon.
I would say, you know, questions or anyone else wants to comment sort of on what they're seeing within their organization in terms of the economic downturn and how it is impacting or might be likely to impact your programs. It would be interesting to hear.
I agree. Good point there. Anybody? I think any of the European participants. I don't know if Dean is still on or Patrick from IBM. In terms of what you are seeing, either in your own company or in your given region, a similar sentiment, similar attitudes to what Barry just reported from the US. All right, we have Dean. Larry, you want to?
Yep, one moment. My computer seems to have frozen 1 second.
Too many Barrys on this call.
Okay, go ahead, Dean.
Dean, can you go ahead? I know I can't hear you.
He's definitely on mute. Dean, have you got your microphone on mute? Okay, seems to have a problem with Dean's communication. If you wanted to, yes, he looks like he's trying to type his question. So, Dean, if you can type your question. And while Dean is typing his question...
Let me ask Barry. Barry, what do you think, Barry Hall, what do you think in terms of obviously, we don't, at this point, we don't know when it's going to end. It's still kind of looming, and there's indicators here and there, but there's no clear sign of getting out of the what is your impression? I mean, first of all, as you said, the survey was a couple of months back. What do you think how companies, in terms of your experience, think about it now, or maybe even the end of the year if this crisis still keeps looming? What is your opinion on that, Barry?
Well, I have some my experience beyond the survey is limited to some of the employers that I'm working with, and what I've seen has been encouraging from a health promotion perspective, and I'll have to say a little bit surprising. Working with some large employers who have got everybody's talking now about what's the bogey that they have to cut out of their budget for benefits budget or even healthcare budget for next year, and they're looking at a lot of different ways to reduce costs, and but in general, cutting the spending on health promotion is maybe considered but quickly rejected, and in some cases even cutting other areas in order to increase spending on some of the health promotion opportunities, recognizing that that's ultimately, where they're going to achieve the better longer-term savings. Now, the challenge, obviously, today is a lot of organizations are looking for immediate relief, and, putting in new health promotion, most people are not going to claim that that's going to have immediate, next quarter financial results. So that is a challenge, but I do have to say for some organizations that are pretty hard-nosed, financially driven, it's very encouraging to see them sort of getting it that, investing in employee health and health promotion in the long term is really what they need to be doing, or they're never going to get, beyond their current challenges.
Wolf, we've had a couple of people that have been typing in chat. One of them is from actually Dean, who is having communication problems. He's saying that he's particularly found more investment at IBM, that there's no major change. Oh, sorry, that's my mistake. Patrick Trout has said there's no change at IBM, no major change. Just trying to use the budget wisely. Whereas Dean is saying they've done more investment globally other than the UK and Ireland. They've targeted big D&D countries which have big business growth to invest in more substantially. Countries such as China, Singapore, Southeast Asia, Russia, Turkey, Israel, Brazil, Poland, France. So hopefully this spending will be sustained and show good support for those populations.
Well, that's a pretty positive picture that we're seeing here at the moment. Any other experiences in regard to that? Maybe more negative. I hope not. But any of you had some cuts with your wellness program in reaction to the economic downturn? Nobody? I think...
oh, yes, Marsha has...
Okay, sorry, I didn't see that. Marsha?
Hi, I just raised my hand. Just one quick comment. I think the primary thing that we've seen with clients is reduction in force. If they have an internal full-time designated wellness consultant or coordinator, we've seen several of the organizations we work with lay off that role, and so it has a downstream effect, of course, if you don't have an internal designee that is fully responsible for orchestrating, developing, and managing the program, and the rest of the team is trying to do it off the side of their desk, that it really does affect the robustness and quality of the program over time. But I guess the plus side of that, or the upside of that, is they're also looking at, in a number of circumstances, outsourcing that consultant role. But consultants might be interested in hearing that. And they're, really looking to other external resources to fill that gap. So I would say that's the primary thing we've observed today with the clients.
It's interesting. I was just thinking, because we have a number of clients who are looking to fill that type of a role, and as you probably know, it's difficult to find people with much experience in that area because it's a relatively new type of role. It would be interesting if anybody knows of a sort of a resource pool to connect candidates, especially if some of them are getting laid off. I would think there's probably some opportunity to connect them with other organizations that have had an open position that they're looking to fill.
And we often look to CHES, the Certified Health Education Specialist organization. We're looking for roles, so that's one resource that's been pretty valuable, I think.
Good, thank you.
Okay. Other comments along those lines? I think I can, from my perspective, I can probably echo a lot of these observations. I see that some companies are actually, putting plans on hold, just like Patty briefly mentioned earlier on with China, where they're still going for another level of analyzing and in terms of where to spend the funds. So, but I don't really, in my experience, have encountered a lot of companies that are saying, you know, we really need to cut this at this moment. So again, it's encouraging, and it's more along the lines of being, you know, more careful with spending and maybe, you know, taking another close look and delaying some of that. So that's I can only echo that. I agree. Do we have anybody else still wanted to share their experience in some of their situation at your company or even in your country? Now we're getting close to the end time here, so do we have any last minute comments on this? I don't see anybody else. Barry, Stokes, do you see anybody or any more chats that I missed? Any comments?
Nothing more to add, no.
Okay, well, I guess we're close at the end. First of all, thanks so much to Patty and Barry both for presenting. I thought it was both very, very interesting and enlightening. And also thanks to you who made the comments, and also Patrick and Dean, I appreciate it. And of course, I'd like to thank everybody else for joining. Thanks a lot. Please provide us with your feedback as always, especially in terms of issues or even regions that you would like to see discussed or featured in future calls. So that's, I can imagine it's always very helpful for us in terms of determining the agenda. And as usual, we'll see a summary of discussions and an outline of the next steps in the next news update. So, and we envision the next call to be, you know, after the summer and in the early fall. And of course, I wish you all a healthy and productive summer. So thanks a lot again for joining, and I'll talk to you all soon. Goodbye. Thanks a lot.